There's so much stuff to unlock in video games, it's completely understandable that you don't get to all of it. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the 10 best things you never unlocked in video games. Starting off with number 10, it's Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Edition's Seitengrat Bow. You've probably heard of the Zodiac Spear, the absurd super weapon that was meant to very rarely appear, but people managed to use RNG manipulation to figure out a specific spot where it would show up. Even knowing where it would be, it was still only a 10% chance the chest would appear, and on top of that, a 10% chance that something would actually be in the chest, and on top of that, another 10% chance that the item in the chest would actually be the spear. That's rare, but this weapon added to the game with the Zodiac Edition is even rarer and more overpowered. It's the Seitengrat Bow, believe it or not, and it has a chance of appearing in an invisible chest with a 1% chance of even showing up. There's another 1% chance that the chest will have the bow. That means you got about a 1 in 10,000 chance of this bow appearing in an invisible chest, which sounds totally nuts, but this is just the beginning of the list. It's gonna get way crazier from here, let me tell you. This bow is absurdly strong. It's got the highest stats in the game, it's got twice the range of any other ranged weapon, and everyone, all people can use it. It's so strong that it's probably not meant to be in the game at all. Like, the weapon's invisible after all. It's probably meant to be some debut thing that was just left in the game. There are ways to make the weapon appear 100% of the time using RNG manipulation, but that only works in certain versions of the game. The Switch version, not one of those versions, for example. So Switch players, if you want it, you're going to have to get it the old-fashioned way. At number 9 is Monster Hunter 1's Dragon Massacre. If you think some of the materials in Monster Hunter World are too rare, well, it could be worse. You could be playing the original Monster Hunter. The new games tend to give you some tools to make getting certain cave resources easier, but the original game, it was not so forgiving. So if you want to get the necessary materials to make a weapon down the Dragon Hunter Greatsword path, you're going to have to work for them. A lot of this stuff is time-consuming to get. But by far the most frustrating materials are the Dragon Massacre Swords materials. You need 5 Rothian pieces, 5 Rathalos plates, which, it's an extremely good weapon, but getting it's going to be a huge chore. Each plate material is a flat 1% chance of dropping. That's a 1 in 100, which isn't that bad, except you got to multiply that by a power of 10. Reading a guide, they say this single weapon is going to take about 600 Rathalos runs and around 500 Rothian runs to get the materials you want, and while it could go faster, it could also take much, much longer if you're not lucky. 600 Rathalos runs. I don't even know if I've fought 600 monsters total playing the series Monster Hunter. That's how many hunts you have to do to just get half the necessary parts. When people say the original Monster Hunter was insane, this is what they're talking about right here. At number 8 is World of Warcraft Classics Pendulum of Doom. One of the rarest weapons in the World of Warcraft. Isn't exactly one of its best. It's a level 44 weapon in a game where the max level is, it's so far past that. But the Pendulum makes up for the lack of power with style. Got a great name, right? I think so. And while it doesn't look super unique, it does have a very powerful passive ability that is sought after by certain players. The chances to get this thing now are pretty much impossible in the base game, but I'm pretty sure it can still be obtained in Classic. Still pretty low chances there, though. The axe is only dropped by a few enemies in the Alderman dungeon, and while the exact chances of dropping it are unknown, Wowhead.com has some estimated numbers that put the chances of the Pendulum of Doom dropping somewhere between 0.02 or 1 in 5,000 and 0.07 or 1 in 1,500. Not good chances. And they only drop by specific enemies in the dungeon, so your practical chances of the weapon, they're lower than that even. It took a guy, no joke, 3.5 years of grinding this one dungeon before they found the axe for themselves. And that's not even the only rare item in Alderman. There's a ton of them, and they're all tough to get. It's just that the Pendulum of Doom is probably the most interesting, just from even the name alone. And number 7 is Final Fantasy XI, Excalibur from Fishing. I don't know if this is meant to be a joke or what, but when Final Fantasy XI first launched, some developer made it so you could find one of the most powerful swords in the Final Fantasy series in the MMO by fishing. It was only possible to get it from one very specific fishing spot, and the actual chances were very low, like 1 in 20,000, which wouldn't be completely impossible to get for MMO players, but only if they knew what they were looking for, and there's no indication anyone did know this sword could be found this way. A lot of people in the dev team didn't even know about it. They only found out when they were planning on putting Excalibur into the game as a relic weapon and found there was already an entry for it. As far as I'm aware, there are no recorded instances of anyone ever finding this thing. Plenty of people got the relic weapon version, but as far as I can tell, nobody ever found it from fishing. what makes it all even more ridiculous is that even if somebody did get it, they wouldn't have been able to use it. To use the Excalibur, players had to be level 70, and the level cap at the time of launch was 50. It would have been a pretty funny troll. I mean, honestly, it's probably like a Lady of the Lake type joke, where Excalibur was gifted to Arthur, etc., all that. But the problem is, I don't think anybody got a chance to see it, at least as far as we know. And number 6 is Phantasy Star Online, Prophets of Motav. This is where the numbers start to get out of control. There's a weapon from the original Dreamcast version of Phantasy Star Online that only drops in one specific area from one specific enemy, and only when you're playing on Ultimate Difficulty. It is the Prophets of Motav, and your chances of getting it are, and I am not kidding here, 1 in 1.3 million. They made it a lot easier to get in a later version of the game, but the Dreamcast original, the only way to get this was to grind this single enemy called the Grand Sorcerer over and over again until potentially the heat death of the universe, because the chances of the thing dropping were very low. I mean, you could beat this thing repeatedly for a very long time, and you would never even get to 1.3 million fights. Like, that's a lot. And it's only useful for specific classes, too. It's so rare, most players don't even bother with it, even in the games where it's more likely you'll actually find it. The revised chances are about 1 in 10,000, which is still incredibly rare, just not might as well be impossible, which is the level the wand was originally. And number 5 is Old School RuneScape's Uncut Onyx. Old School RuneScape, all about that grind. It's the whole game, and there's some legendary rare items in this game. The rarest by a country mile is Uncut Onyx. To give you an idea of how rare it is, it's been found by 2 players in the last 7 years. Jagex went on social media to say this is a 1 in a 100 million drop, but the actual chances are actually more like 1 in 2.5 million. Each bag of gems has 40 chances for the Onyx to drop. That's not quite as rare as they were saying. It's still incredibly rare, and it's crazy so few players have found it because people are grinding those gem bags nonstop. Why is Onyx so hard to get in RuneScape? I don't know, but it's rare, so people want it. And number 4 is Diablo 2's Zod rune. This special rune, you can socket it into your weapons in Diablo 2, and it has this really useful effect of making it so that anything you use it on is made indestructible. It's a great power. It's a very powerful effect. But if you want it, you're going to have to work for it. Your options for getting this thing are to either, pay a ton for it at the gray market or to grind for it in-game. You're spending currency either way. It's precious time and precious money. Those are your only options. Grinding for this thing, it takes time. Chances of it dropping are 1 in 3 million, and those are the best chances. You have a better chance of actually being struck by lightning, which is 1 in 15,300 than you do in finding this rune naturally. You have a better chance of winning an Olympic gold medal, which is 1 in 662,000. Although I'd argue it's significantly lower for me. You will not see me winning an Olympic gold medal anytime soon. People have played this game for years and never found it, and we're still only halfway down the list. Stuff is only going to get rarer somehow. And number 3 is Borderlands 2's Perfect Hide of Terramorphous. I mean, this thing's fairly rare already. It's a legendary shield you can only get from killing the raid boss Terramorphous, the Invincible. Getting it's not easy. You got to kill one of the toughest bosses in the game. Usually that requires a full co-op team knitted out with the best gear. But the real rarity starts when you try to get the perfect hide of Terramorphous, one that includes all the best parts from the correct manufacturer. Getting all the stars to align to get the most effective version of the shield is where things start to get absurd. According to some guys on the Borderlands 2 Reddit who did all the legwork on this, the chances of getting a perfect god drop for this thing are around, and I'm dead serious here, Big Hand Larry on Reddit did the math, they are around 1 in 95 million. You are more likely to die in a tornado, which is 1 in 13 million, than you are to find the perfect hide here. It's so rare, it might as well be a statistical impossibility. And number 2 is Path of Exile's alternate artwork Alpha's Howl. There's this item in Path of Exile. It's basically a type of currency that's so rare that people have played the game for 10 years and literally thousands of hours and never seen it. This is the Mirror of Kalendros, and it has the chances of being dropped by just about anything. It's just the chances are very, very low. It's crazy rare. Chances of finding it are 1 in 3 million, which is a lot. But there are much rarer items in Path of Exile, actually. Many of the rarest, most wanted items in the game are the alternate artwork armor and weapons, which were released in very limited quantities for certain events and then never appeared again. Some of these things command exorbitant prices on the open market. One of the most wanted is the alternate artwork Alpha's Howl, which I admit does look pretty cool, but the asking price is unbelievable. You know how the Mirror of Kalendros is one of the rarest and most valuable things in Path of Exile? Well, the AA Alpha's Howl is worth 40 of them. Seriously, that's how much this goes for. An item that players might find once in a lifetime, and it's only worth 1/40th of this thing's value. That's not rare, that's disgustingly rare. And finally, at number 1, Star Wars The Old Republic's Zerka Kradomatic. You want rare? I'll give you rare. 1 in 100 million. You think I'm giving you a high number? Well, actually, that number's nothing compared to this. It's an interesting gimmick item that makes it so a player can disguise themselves as a random object for 30 seconds, which sounds like something you can buy during the holidays or something, but the only way to get it, at least in the original version of the game, is for it to drop randomly. You know how rare it is? I mean, I know the answer, but do you really want to know how rare it is? You won't believe it when you hear it, but I am dead serious. There is no hard data proving it, but players have estimated the chances of getting this thing are about 1 in 1 billion. Not a million, billion with a B, not 100 million. I actually mean 1,000 million, a billion. Lots and lots of millions. Multiply that by 8.5, and that's the number of people there are on the planet. And I guarantee you 1/8 of the human population isn't playing Star Wars The Old Republic. People played this game for 10 years straight. It's the only game they've ever played, literally tens of thousands of hours, and they've never seen it pop up. It does exist, though. A player on the Old Republic forums did confirm they got it once in all their years playing the game. You've got a better chance of being eaten by a shark, being killed by falling furniture, and winning the lottery at the same time. I mean, if you think about it, the fact that one person has gotten it when there's definitely not a billion people playing means that nobody else is probably ever going to get it. We've already outperformed our chances, so that's probably it, guys. No more. I do have a quick bonus for you before we're done for the day. 40 Onyx in a gem bag in old school RuneScape. This is sort of just for fun. Remember how I said chances of getting an Onyx from a gem bag in old school RuneScape is about 1 in 2.5 million? And there are 40 chances of getting an Onyx per bag? Yeah, so it's theoretically possible that someone could get a gem bag containing 40 Onyx in it. But when I say theoretical, I mean like how theoretically you could, I don't know, gain the powers of Superman or sprout wings out your back or actually get really buff from just taking supplements that your favorite influencer markets. I don't know. Basically, there's always a chance if everything is possible, theoretically. The chances are ridiculously, unbelievably small, though. A poster on Reddit did the math. The chances of getting 40 Onyx in a single gem bag is 1 in 10 to the 312th power, which is 312 zeros. I have no idea what that number is. To make any kind of sense of this, I'm just going to repeat a comment by user Hanserwagen verbatim. It wouldn't surprise me that you'd need everyone on Earth to open 1 trillion bags per 1 millisecond to the next 1 million times the total age of the universe, and you would still not even get close. There's rare, and then there's chances that rival the total amount of quarks in the known universe. So way more rare. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on GameRanx.